Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video. Now today I'm going to be taking you through what is in my gym bag, so the items that I take to the gym, what I use for each session, where I get them from and pretty much how often I use them. So this is everything that I keep in my gym bag, everything I take to the gym. I take all of this to competition along with some other things. If you do want to see a video on my competition bag, because it is slightly different, I can do one on that as well. But these are basically just the basic items that some of them I use every day, some of them I'll rarely use at all. So I'm going to take you through them. Here we go. Now the first item is probably the most important, and that is the gym bag itself. Now I have a very big chunky gym bag here from Caveman. Now these are absolutely brilliant bags. They're from Infinity. So Infinity Caveman bags. I cannot remember the exact name of this one, but it is just a brilliant bag. As you can see, absolutely huge, a lot bigger than a lot of guys would need. But as I compete in lots of different events, I need lots of different bits of kit for each thing. And rather than just bringing a bag and changing over what I need in it, I'd rather just get one big bag, throw it all in, so I've got everything in one bag ready to go. So this bag has got a compartment, a big compartment in the front where I put the main big things like my belts, sleeves, things like that. And then it has 4 compartments on the side, so 2 on each side. And then my favourite part is the cooling compartment going through the middle of it. This is brilliant for any kind of shakes or food that you want to bring, keeps everything nice and cold. So in the summer when it's really, really hot, throw a shake in there and it's not going to go bad whilst you're training. So that is the gym bag that I use. I think this one cost me around sort of £60. Not sure how much they are now, but I would definitely recommend, if you're after a bag to fit everything in, buy one of these. So then, let's get into the actual contents of that bag. So I'm going to start off with basically the stuff that I don't use that often, and then I'll go into the stuff that I use quite a lot more often, pretty much regular every day. So, to begin with, the stuff that I don't use that often, but I just keep in my bag just in case. My first two, now these are actually quite an important thing for a lot of people, but I don't like using them at all. I have probably used these once or twice in my life, however I keep them in just in case, and that is deadlift straps. So a lot of people use these when they can't manage to basically grip the bar. These are some that I picked up from My Protein probably about 3 or 4 years ago. So as you can see, it's the old brand on there. They're very old. You can get some better ones, you can get some cheaper ones. These are the ones that I keep in my bag just in case I want to do strapped deadlifts. However, I feel like my grip is pretty good and I never seem to struggle with that. But I keep them in just in case. The item that a lot of people use more often than I do, so I always keep them in my bag. So I have one of them here, and that is a knee strap. Now I prefer to use sleeves, so I don't really use straps too often. However, if I'm going for quite a big squat, then I'll quite often put on my straps. Again, this is just a cheap one that I got off of eBay, I believe. You can get really expensive ones and you can get really cheap ones, but they're basically used to compress the knee, protect it a little bit and add a little bit more support when doing things like squats. The next one is something that I use quite a lot when I'm competing, and that is a mouth guard or a gum shield. Now this one is not a proper one used for lifting. I got it from Sports Direct for about a tenner. And the idea is, when you put it in your mouth, one, it gives you something to bite down onto, so if you find that you're gritting your teeth quite a lot whilst you're training, then it's brilliant to use. And another thing is it's great for balance, so it adds to that stability and it just helps you balance a little bit better when you are training. So the next item on the list is a great thing to keep in your bag, and it's one of those just in case items, and that is K-tape. So K-tape is basically used when you have an injury. So on this back here, it's basically designed for muscle support, and it's what a lot of physios or sports therapists will use. So I always keep this in my bag for my own personal use. I have some that I use for clients as well, but this is what I use for myself. It was being used quite a lot when I injured my calf in competition, and it's just a great thing to keep in your bag just in case you need it, mainly for competing. I mean, if you injure yourself in a training session, I wouldn't suggest just putting K-tape on it and carrying on. It's one of those things that you want to make sure it's not going to be something that could progress on and get worse. K-tape will not stop it getting worse. It's one of those things that you put on if you already know what the injury is, as it may help just protect it a little bit. Now the next item is actually a little bit of kit for the gym. Now a lot of gyms will have these already, some of them won't, and those are fat grips. So fat grips are basically a bit of rubber material that goes around a bar and it makes the bar thicker. So these are brilliant to use to increase your grip, and I quite like using them to mimic a axle. So in strongman we have a thicker bar called an axle that you overhead press, or sometimes you do deadlifts with. Now throw these onto a standard bar, it makes them thicker, mimics an axle a little bit better. I like keeping these in my bag. I use them quite a lot for different exercises. You can throw them on things like lat pull downs, and again it's just increasing that forearm strength. Well, the next two items I'm going to group together. Now the first one is a liquid chalk, and the second one is a powdered chalk, or a block form in this instance. So basically chalk is used to just increase your grip, and it helps especially soak up any moisture. So if you're sweating a lot, then chalk is a necessity to have, as the bar can become quite slippery. Things like deadlifts can be quite difficult. Now liquid chalk is basically applied in a liquid form. You put it on your hand, rub it together, clap it together, whatever you need to do, and what it does is it dries up and then forms a chalk. Now liquid chalk is perfect if you want less mess in the gym, as once it's on your hand, once it's dried up, that's when the grip will come in. Whereas powdered chalk, or a block form here, I'm keeping it in an ice cream tub. I'd recommend putting it in a tub or a bag, as it can make a bit of a mess. It's basically just a block used here, and if I show you with my finger, basically just forms a layer of chalk over your hand, but it can cause a bit of a mess. So this is a quicker way of doing it, and it's great for applying it to clothes as well. So if you're putting any chalk on your clothes, I would use powdered chalk. Liquid chalk doesn't really work on clothes, it just makes it really sticky. So I would put this on any kind of clothing. That's the main reason I use it. And it's also great to just keep reapplying. The best combination is putting on some liquid chalk to set a bit of a base, and then throughout the day or throughout the session add on some dry powdered chalk just to layer over it and top it up. Now the next item is again kept in a Tupperware pot. Now this isn't because it's messy, it's because it can be quite dangerous. So the next item is smelling salts. Now smelling salts are basically a form of ammonia, and what ammonia is it's the same thing that you clean your oven with. So it's not something that you want to take lightly. Smelling salts are basically a salt that you smell, and what it does is it basically triggers your mind to be like, what the fuck have I just smelled? Releases loads of adrenaline and just gives you an extra little boost to your session. I wouldn't use them very often, they can be quite dangerous. Always read the bottle and keep in mind which ones you're buying. I get these from Cerberus Strength, and they're the Hellfire ones, which are basically the lowest grade they've got. They do have more intense ones. I don't use them very often. I mainly use them in competition or the last few weeks leading up to competition when I need that extra kick. But basically all it does is it allows the body to stimulate some more adrenaline, send adrenaline to the muscles to get a lift done soon. Gives you a bit of a rush, shocks you a little bit, and just gets your ass in gear to do the lift. Now the next items again I'm going to group together. Now these are the items that I keep in my bag for when I do Atlas stones. So anyone that does strongman will understand you need certain materials to do Atlas stones with. Unless you just want to go in raw, take your top off and lift up a stone, you need to come prepared. So first of all I have my Tacky shorts. These are shorts that I wear whenever I do stones. It doesn't matter if they get dirty, and I'll lead on to why in a minute. And I also have a Tacky t-shirt. Again, it's a t-shirt that can get dirty, it can get ripped a bit, it doesn't matter. I always recommend keeping these in your bag. They will smell after a little while, but just keep in mind you're not going to be wearing them for long. And it's one of those things, you can wash them as much as you want, but the likelihood of getting the tacky out of the clothes is not, it's not going to happen really. So I would use clothes that, old clothes, you're not really worried about getting dirty or getting ruined, because they will get ruined whatever you're wearing. So I always keep the same clothes in my bag, wash them every now and again so they're not honking, but just be prepared to bring some spare clothes with you. The reason you do that is because of the second item, which is Tacky. Now Tacky is basically a glue that is used when lifting stones. I will do that to kind of show you, but I'm not going to put loads on my hands. As you can see, stick straight to the finger like so, and it's basically a very strong glue that you put onto your forearms, onto your hands, and what it allows you to do is grip an Atlas stone, pick it up to wherever you need to pick it up to, without it slipping out of your hands. Now, Tacky rips your skin to bits. It stays on your skin for about a week after you've done the stones. It's not a very pleasant feeling, but it is a necessity when you want to lift a heavy stone. So I get that from So I do recommend picking up some Tacky if you want to do some heavy stones. But yeah, just keep in mind you need to come prepared, bring some spare clothes as well. You also need to bring a Tacky towel, which here I've just got an old tea towel, along with some WD-40. WD-40 is the easiest way to get Tacky off of your arms. And trust me, when it's on there, it's on there. I wouldn't recommend touching anything else. Whatever you do not do what I did when I got a little bit of grass on my hand, and obviously it stuck to my hand because of the Tacky. So I tried wiping it off on the floor, where I then picked up loads of stones on my hand, and it's impossible to get everything off. So once the Tacky is applied to your forearms, applied to your hands, do not touch anything except that stone. Then when you're ready to get someone, ideally you need a friend to be able to help you do stones, because you need someone to spray the WD-40 onto your hand, rub it into your skin, wipe it off with a towel, and hopefully most of it will come off. Do not rely on hot water and a shower, because that will not get the Tacky off. That's the best way to get it off, or use a actual Tacky remover, and then just constantly pick it off for the next week. But if you're going to use Tacky, make sure you have those supplies with you. Okay, so now we are getting on to the main things that I use for my sessions. Now these are used weekly without fail, so we're going to run through them now. So the first thing is the shoes that I wear when I train. Now I wear 3 different pairs of shoes. One of them is just any kind of trainer that I'm wearing at the time, so I don't really need to show you those. But it's just any trainer that's comfortable to move about in. Those are the best. Any shoe that's comfortable is going to be the best to train in. The next are more specified to certain lifts. So the first of all are these very dirty at the moment Converse. Now Converse are a flat shoe, so it's flat sole, and these are the best things to use when you're doing things such as your deadlifts, sometimes your overhead press, anything where you need a flat ground. So deadlifts is the main one that I use these for. Also I'll sometimes use them for some sled pushes, although you should really use like rock climbing shoes for any kind of truck pull, sled push, something like that. But these are mainly used for me when I deadlift, as it's allowing that flat ground. It's no jelly sole in there, so it's just constant hard ground, absorbing all of that force, bringing it up. You do not want to use like a soft trainer, as it will just absorb all of the force you put into it, and you won't get as much out of the lift. Now the next pair of shoes is a brand new item for me. They literally arrived yesterday. I've used them once today, and that are my weightlifting shoes. So these are the Powerlifter 4s from Adidas. Really nice pair of shoes. I've used them once in a squat session today, and they worked amazingly. Now I bought these as it's basically weightlifter shoes have a more thicker heel. They're also a much harder and flat shoe. Again, they work great for mainly squats, so squats and overhead press, anything where you need stability and a flat ground. If you're using Converse for squats, they're great. However, sometimes you want that raised heel. So this has a slightly thicker heel, and it allows you to sit in a better position when you're squatting. It also keeps the ankle firm and stable. So when doing things like overhead press, you're going to have a lot more stability. You're not going to be falling all over the place. And they're also very comfortable. So I would recommend, if you are an advanced lifter and you're doing a lot of compound lifts, heavy, get yourself a pair of weightlifting shoes. If you don't want to pay up for these, then Converse work pretty well as well. But I've just paid up for these, and I've been training for about 4 or 5 years now, and I've only now just bought a pair of these. I probably would have bought them a little while ago if I knew how good they would be. But yeah, if you've got the money, spend out on a pair of weightlifting shoes. The next item is the one that I've probably used the most. I use this in every single session without fail, and that is my weightlifting belt. And I got this one from Cerberus Strength. It is the single prong, I believe it's the 10mm belt. A weightlifting belt, if no one basically knows what this is, then it's something to support your core. However, a lot of people misunderstand when you should use a weightlifting belt. People walk around and wear them to do bicep curls. That's not going to benefit you much at all. The reason you use a weightlifting belt is to give you that extra core support. However, if you've already got a weak core, then it's not going to help. You need to strengthen your core by using this as least as possible. Use it for your heaviest lifts. I would say anything under 5 reps is when you want to be using a weightlifting belt. If you're using it for every single exercise, then your core is not going to get stronger. This basically helps and supports your core. However, sometimes it can stop the core from working as much as it could be. Again, it's great to use for those big compounds like your squats, your deadlifts, your overhead press. Some people use it for a bench press as well. I don't find a benefit from that, but if you want to use it for a bench press, it will help. But it's one of those things that you want to make sure you have a strong core before you even worry about using this. It's a safety barrier. It's not going to be used to replace training your core. The next few objects I'm going to go through is my sleeves. Now, starting with my knee sleeves, again, I got these from Cerberus Strength. I believe they're the 13mm knee sleeves. They absolutely reek because they've been worn loads, probably for the past 2 years, and I think I've probably washed them once. Make sure if you've got these, then try and wash them regularly, and if you don't hold them too close to your nose because they do smell quite bad after a while. Knee sleeves are great to just compress the knee, keep it nice and supported, and it's really good to keep everything warm as well. So if it's cold weather, put these on, it's going to keep that joint warm, and it also adds a little bit of that springy movement to your squat. It's going to compress the knee so that when you're in that squat position, it's going to ping back up a little bit easier. Do recommend knee sleeves to anyone that does heavy squats and maybe heavy overhead press as well. Those are the main lifts I use them in. Any kind of push press movement, any kind of squat movement. Vital bit of kit to have. The next, just like your knee sleeves, is elbow sleeves. Now, I've got 2 pairs of these. I've got some tighter ones here that don't fit me anymore, so I'll explain what I use them for in a minute. And then I've also got some bigger ones, and these are also a little bit thicker ones than the others. Now, these are great for overhead pressing, for your bench press, any kind of pressing movement where you need that extra elbow support. Again, just like the knee sleeves, they protect the elbow. They add a little bit more kind of resistance to it, as in when it pings back up, it's got that more spring-loaded action, and they just keep the joints warm. Great to use if you're doing a lot of pressing movements. Now, like I said before, I do not use these smaller ones for elbow sleeves anymore. I actually use them to put over my forearm. Now, the reason I do that is for 2 different exercises. One of them is stones and the other one is Circus Dumbbell. Now, stones, it basically allows to protect the skin. So when you're doing stones every single week, the skin's going to constantly bruise up. That's not a problem. You can just kind of forget about it, admit that it's going to hurt, and just carry on about your day. However, it is going to stop you from training to your full intensity if it's not recovered in time. So therefore, if you're not using Tacky and you don't need to worry about putting it on your skin, put on a pair of these sleeves, and it's just going to protect your forearms from bruising too much, and it's going to allow you to be able to consistently lift stones each week without having to wait for the bruises to go down, and it basically just allows you to have a little bit of extra grip without worrying about ripping your skin to bits. I also use them sometimes for Circus Dumbbell. Now, Circus Dumbbell is a massive dumbbell that goes on your shoulder like this, and then you press it above your head. Sometimes this can cut into the skin a little bit, and it's very uncomfortable when it sits there. This can make the lift a lot more difficult because you're worried about the pain more than lifting the weight. And again, it's basically just going to protect the skin and allow you to worry about the pressing rather than it cutting into your arm and hurting. The final piece of kit I'm going to talk about are my wrist wraps. Now, these are basically similar to the sleeves. These just protect the wrists. So I've got the basic ones from Cerberus Strength. You can get some longer ones, but these have worked pretty well for me. It's one of the first bits of kit that I bought myself, along with a belt. Now, these work great for basically just adding that extra protection for the wrists. I find they help massively in stopping the wrists from aching after doing lots of heavy pressing work, but they also keep your wrists in a more stabilised position. So rather than allowing the wrist to bend back, If you do them tight enough, it will sit your wrist in more of a stabilised position, which is then going to help with that press. Definitely recommend picking up some of these. You can get them really cheap, and if they're going to help you with your lift and if it's going to stop you from being as much pain, then definitely buy them. There we have it. That is all of the kits that I use in and out of competition. Now, I'm not saying you need to go out and buy all of this equipment. This is just some stuff that I use to help me go about my sessions. I compete in strongman. It's a very intense sport and it does put a lot of strain on the body. If you just lift weights to lose a bit of weight and stay in shape, you don't need to buy all of this stuff. This just ensures that I can perform to my best ability at all times in and out of competition. It allows me to go quite heavy and reduce the risk of injury. However, like I said, it is not necessary if you are just lifting a little bit of weight to stay healthy. Some of it might be, but some of it is down to you as a person and what you feel like you need. Don't go out and buy all of this and expect to be lifting twice the amount you were lifting the week before. It's not used to dramatically improve all of your lifts. It's used to add that extra 1% to help you in your training session. If you have any questions about the kit that I keep in my gym bag, then let me know in the comment section below and I'll be sure to answer your questions. If you have any other video ideas that you would like me to do, then again, be sure to let me know in the comment section below. And I will also do a competition bag when I'm next competing. Like I said, this is slightly different. It's dedicated to those events, and it will also include things like the foods that I bring and anything that's going to help me on the day. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.